name's Alana Mason, and I teach at Summit in a grade 4-5 class. And I found when it comes to building relationships with students and their families, they need to know that who you are. Sending an email, even in the nicest crafted email, doesn't really say a lot about you. And having them be able to hear my voice and have me talk about what I do know about their child helps build that trust and that understanding that I do have their child's best interest in heart, and that I know their kid and I want what's best for them. So that was a lot of time on the phone, to be honest. And some families were more comfortable, like they would text sometimes, and that was something I was new to. I wasn't used to texting with families, to be honest. But in this context, is what made sense for me, not for everybody, but that was what made sense for me. There was some students that, when it came to doing a Flipgrid or doing a video, like it just heightened their anxiety, and it wasn't something, they were still doing it. And they would do it because they were like, oh, well, she asked me to do it, so I'm going to do it. But they were super uncomfortable with it. And that's where, again, having that relationship with the family so that they can call you or just be like, hey, this is what happened, and trusting you to be able to manage that. And I think that was something that I learned as well, is that just because everything looks like it's okay doesn't mean that it is. And having that relationship with the families is really important, so that they will touch base with you and just say, hey, they don't really like doing this. And I'm like, and knowing that, and then weekly emails after that, just kind of saying, this is what we've worked on, this is what's coming up, that was how I kind of tried to keep that context in. So trying to figure out a way that they could share. So I would have like a weekly Google slide where they could input their favorite writing piece or their poem or whatever it was that we were working on. And I also found that the Google question, once I figured out how to make it work, was really fun for them too, because you'd ask an open-ended question that doesn't have, so a math question, for example, that didn't have a right answer, and they could all put an answer into it. The priority areas were the English language arts and the math. So I looked at some of the things that I kind of went back. So for math, we went back into some of the things that we had done before, and looking at division and multiplication, fractions. So I picked certain things that I wanted us to practice, and then I found different ways of having us practice them. And students would reflect at the end of the week, or if they did, I used Khan Academy and IXL, like there was different online programs that I used for them. And so if they did something like that, I would have them put in their reflection what's something that they learned and what's something that they are still not sure about, just to help give me kind of a sense of what was going on. Because there were other things that I did as well. I would put up different sheets for them to practice, and they could watch a video and then try it out on their own. But I found that their reflection was not the simplest, but like the most straightforward maybe way of me understanding if they were connecting with what was going on, and if it was what they needed next. I did weekly reflections where I just had like a Google form, and I would change the questions and some of them, it would, one question at the end was always, what do you want me to know? And that was the most open-ended and vague, I guess, questions sometimes are the best, because some of the stuff that they came up with, it would be simple, like, I want you to know that I'm okay. Or I want you to know that I did a backflip on my trampoline. Or I want you to know, and so like little things like that, so then I could pull that forward next time I was talking to them, and so that they knew that, because I think sometimes we would communicate in comments, and it took me a while to figure out, I didn't have the right setting in my Google Classroom to get an email every time that they commented on something. So I was going back in, but sometimes it would be a day or two later before I would see what they had written, and so they weren't getting that. So once I figured out that simple thing of getting that email, I'd be like, oh, they commented, and then I could reply right back. So then they saw that I was there. So I used Google Forms at the end of the week so that they would send me just kind of a reflection, and the questions would be, what's something that you learned in math today? How often did you get help, or how often did you ask for help? Did you know that I had office hours? Just to help them kind of remember that there are these structures in place. It doesn't just have to be when mom or dad comes home from work or whatever it may be, like that we've got some things in place as we go. And then in some of the projects that we would do, so if we were doing a KWL, it would be, something that they are wondering about, but then something that at the end, it's something, what could you teach someone as a result of this? And so getting into their context, the idea, it's not just what you've learned, but are you able to take that and push that forward to someone else?